From mysterious strangers lurking in the darkness
Oh my god.
to ghostly apparitions that haunt the roads.
That's the theory. That is very scary.
These are the encounters that made drivers slam the accelerator and never look back. A man was driving home after a late shift on the 23rd of February when his dashcam caught something that stopped him cold. The highway was quiet, the road was lit, and traffic was light. But right there on the concrete divider, a pale figure was standing motionless. Dressed in a black and white dress, it did not attempt to move or signal, just stood there, facing the road, as if it had been waiting. The driver didn't notice it at the time, but when he reviewed the footage later, he saw it and posted it online, asking if it was a ghost or something even more sinister. Kuntilanak. A man was driving home alone through Jalan Desa Sukamaju in Bogor, West Java, Indonesia, when his headlights caught something sitting in the road ahead. A bizarre figure, crouched low, wearing what looked like a red dress, with a pale face and black hair hanging over its face. It wasn't moving. The driver reversed slowly and kept watching, but the figure just stayed there, moving toward his car, as if it had been waiting for him. After watching the footage, his neighbors said he was lucky he never got out of the car, as this road was said to be haunted by a kuntilanak. Haunted Road. A shopkeeper from Murshidabad, West Bengal, was driving home late on the night of November 2nd, 2019, after locking up his store. The road was completely dark when his headlights caught something standing in the center of his path. A glowing white figure, a woman in a flowing white dress, with long black hair spilling over her face, was standing and staring straight at him. He hit the brakes hard. Before he could even think about what to do next, she dropped low to the ground and vanished. He drove home shaking and told his family he had seen a witch. Midday apparition. A blurry figure was spotted standing in the middle of Jalan Raya Pantura near Pekalongan, Central Java, Indonesia, and the strange part is that it showed up in broad daylight. A driver heading toward town caught it on his dashcam, without even realizing it at the time. The figure is blurry and dark, barely visible against the road, and remains in the same spot across the entire video while motorcycles and vehicles pass by without even noticing. When the driver reviewed the footage, he circled it and posted it online, saying it was a ghost. But what do you think? Baba Yaga. A delivery driver named Marcus was heading back from a morning drop-off on the 6th of August, 2021, taking a back road through the pine forests outside Lufkin, Texas. That was when he saw her. A figure in a faded red top and pale trousers was limping down the middle of the road, each step heavy and uneven. Marcus slowed to a crawl.
Let's hike goggles.
Unsure whether to stop, the way she moved, the stiffness in her body, the way she never once turned to acknowledge the car behind her, it didn't feel right. At that moment, Marcus was reminded of Baba Yaga, the witch from Slavic folklore he had heard about in childhood, wandering lonely roads like this one in search of the lost. Strange road figure. It was February 15th, 2018, just past midnight, when a family was driving up to a hill station for the weekend. The road was narrow, dark, and on both sides, thick trees pressed close. Then the headlights caught something in the left lane, a tiny white figure appearing to be a child. It didn't move, didn't flinch. The father hit the gas and quickly passed through this stretch of road. The whole family noticed the figure and left stunned, because at this hour of the night, no normal human being could appear on the road. So was it a ghost or something else? Only you can decide. Witch abduction. Nobody knew he was missing until his car was found 3 days later on Whitefish Stage Road outside Kalispell, Montana, engine still running. It was the 18th of January, 2025. Snow had been falling for hours. When investigators pulled the dashcam footage, this is what they found: a narrow forest road, heavy snowfall, and a terrifying figure standing in the middle of it, with a pale face and long black hair covering its face. The car slowed down, and suddenly the figure lunged forward and pressed its creepy face against the windshield. The footage ended abruptly, and the man was never found. Figure with no head. A woman was driving back from her sister's place on Route 9 in Woodstock, New York, on the 8th of November when her dashcam picked up something frightening. Right in the center lane, a figure was walking with his back toward the car. It was pale, human in shape from the chest down, with bare legs. But above the shoulders, there was nothing. No head, just an empty stump where one should have been. The car passed straight through the figure as if he were made of smoke. Terrified, she drove as fast as she could, and all the way home, he could not stop thinking about the ghost that might come for revenge. Road figure. On the 14th of August, 2019, a truck driver was heading home late at night on a quiet stretch of highway outside Knoxville, Tennessee. As he came around a bend, he saw a parked car on the side of the road and three figures doing something strange. Then one of them stepped into the middle of the road and stood there with both arms stretched wide open, as if blocking the way on purpose. The figure glowed an unnatural white in the headlights. The driver swerved slowly around it and floored the accelerator and called highway police, but by the time they arrived, the figures were long gone. Mysterious figure. On the 9th of November, 2021, a timber truck driver was making his way through a winding forest road in California, late at night, to offload his load before sunrise. The rain was coming down hard, and the road ahead was barely visible through the fog. As he rounded a bend, his headlights caught something standing on the side of the road. It was a white figure, pale and motionless, with long black hair hanging over its face. It made no movement as the truck passed. He kept driving and never looked back in fear. Later, when he showed this footage to one of his friends, who identified it as a spirit, said to lure people at night. Durga Devi. On the 3rd of February, 2022, a man was driving home late at night after attending a religious event. Suddenly, something up ahead made him slow the car. A figure dressed in red was perched on top of a large black animal, moving fast beside the road. Its head appeared to be a hand, with its four hands spread out like branches in every direction, holding divine weapons. He blinked his eyes twice because what he was looking at was Durga, Devi, a mythical goddess from Hindu religion. Stopped by ghost.
Okay, that's a bit scary. Yeah.
Two friends were driving home late after celebrating a friend's birthday in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, when they turned onto an empty road and saw something strange. A dark figure was sitting with crossed legs in the middle of the road. They slowed down and stared at it, but neither of them could make sense of what they were seeing. Too scared to drive any closer, they reversed and took a different route home. Neither of them had any idea what it was or why it was sitting there in the middle of the road. If you have any idea, write it down in the comments section.
That's a bit scary. That is very scary.
Phantom Crossing Road. On the 29th of January, 2021, a man was driving home late at night on the Dan Ryan Expressway in Chicago, Illinois, when his dashcam caught something that made him look twice. A bizarre, dark figure was crossing the road. It was running on two legs resembling humans, but its upper body was strange, as if covered in a thick layer of brown fur. By the time he passed it and checked his mirror, it was gone. Viewers online identified the figure as a phantom, but I would like to know your take on it. Witch in White. A man was driving home late at night on the 8th of August, 2017, along a narrow road cutting through thick jungle in Houston, Texas. The road had been empty for miles. Then, just past a bend, a terrifying figure appeared in the middle of the road, wearing a long white dress, dark hair loose around her face, with her back toward the car. Suddenly, the figure turned with something in her hand, stabbing him in his stomach. His dress was stained with something red. The man was scared and quickly reversed the car and never took this road to go home again. Highway Ghost. On the 21st of May, 2018, a man was driving alone on a dark highway in Chiang Rai, Thailand, at around 2 in the morning, when his dashcam captured something that still disturbs everyone who watches the footage. A pale white figure appeared in the middle of the road ahead, small at first, then becoming clearer as the car approached. It looked like a person with an unnaturally pale complexion, standing motionless. The driver had no time to react, and the car drove straight through it. In an instant, the figure vanished as if it had never been there. After this encounter, he remembered the rumors his friends had told him about paranormal sightings on that highway. Road blocker. A man was driving home after a long night shift in Taichung, Taiwan, when his dashcam caught something so scary that his heart stopped beating for a second. A woman in a white dress was standing on the road, with her arms stretched wide open to both sides, blocking the way. She had no expression on her face and didn't flinch as the headlights lit her up. She just stood there, moving side to side in an erratic behavior as if daring the car to come closer. The driver swerved and drove past her without stopping. Later, he showed the footage to his grandfather, who said she matched the description of a witch said to roam that road after dark. Ghostly presence. Just 2 months ago, a truck driver was driving late at night in Kuantan, Malaysia, when his dashcam caught something standing by the side of the road. It was wearing a white dress and did not move at all as the truck passed. There were no other people around, no nearby cars, and no reason for anyone to be standing there alone at that hour. The driver said something about it that felt wrong. People in the area have long spoken about a ghostly woman who appears on that road at night, and he believed that was exactly what he had seen. Asphalt specter. On April 19, 2019, a passenger bus was traveling on a highway in Sarawak, Malaysia, when its dashcam recorded something disturbing. A red van moving ahead of the bus suddenly swerved because a bizarre humanoid figure appeared out of nowhere on the road. The bus missed the figure by inches. It did not flinch, move, or react at all, as if it had no fear of the bus rushing toward it. After reviewing the footage again and again, the driver became sure that it was something not from this world. Midnight trap.
Can I help you with something?
On the 2nd of November, 2014, a man was driving alone on a dark stretch of Interstate 40, just outside of Amarillo, Texas. When his headlights caught 2 orange traffic cones sitting in the middle of the road, he slowed down. Standing near the cones was a dark figure dressed in black, moving slowly, positioning himself closer to the car's path. Then the driver noticed the man reach into his pocket and move toward the car door. He hit the gas and drove straight through the cones. Later, he said it was a robbery setup, and that hesitating even for a second could have cost him everything. White figure trap. This footage was captured recently on a dark road in Pahang, Malaysia. A truck driver was making his way home late at night when his dashcam picked up several pale white figures standing on both sides of the road. From a distance, they looked like spirits, completely still in the dark, and his first instinct was to slow down. But as he got closer, something felt wrong. There were no spirits. They were people draped in white cloth, using the fear of ghosts to make drivers stop. The moment he understood, he drove the truck straight toward them, and they scrambled out of the way. Parking lot phantom. One Sunday, a truck driver in Fresno, California, sat down to review his dashcam footage from the night before. As he watched the footage, he was left stunned because in the mist ahead of his truck, a thin figure was walking slowly across the lot. It looked blurry and featureless, almost like it was made of smoke. He watched it take a few steps and then vanish into the fog. He posted it online, where one of the commenters identified it as a ghost. Late night anomaly.
Some bloke just stood at the side of the road in the pitch black.
A group of university fellows was driving to a hill station late at night on September 27, 2022, along a dark road outside Flagstaff, Arizona. The dashcam was recording when the car slowed down, and the headlights revealed something standing on the left side of the road. A pale figure wearing what looked like a gray hoodie and light-colored pants. It stood completely still, facing the road. It was not walking or waving, just standing there in the dark as if it had been waiting. One of the students said it might be a ghost, and no one disagreed.
Oh my God.
Road specter. Late on the 18th of September, 2023, a man was driving home alone at 2 in the morning on Interstate 40 in Memphis, Tennessee. The highway was empty, and the road was still wet from earlier rain. Everything was normal until his headlights caught something standing in the left lane. It was a dark figure, hovering some inches above the road with its arms stretched forward. He swerved hard into the right lane and blew past it. When he checked his mirror, it was still standing there. Out of curiosity, he shared the footage on Instagram, where one of the commenters suggested that it might be a ghost. Rake sighting. A couple was heading to their farmhouse in Bozeman, Montana, on the 14th of June when the dashcam caught something terrifying in the tall grass. At first, it looked like an animal, pale, low to the ground, moving on all fours. But the shape was wrong. The limbs were too long and too thin, and the way it moved through the brush was nothing like any animal either of them had ever seen. The wife grabbed her husband's arm. He reversed the car and let the creature cross the road. Later, they shared the clip on Instagram, where one of the commenters suggested it was Rake. Crouched figure. A man was driving home late on the night of May the 14th, 2018, on a rural highway outside Beckley, West Virginia, when something crouched on the right shoulder caught his eye. Small, pale, and hunched low to the ground. It looked almost like a child at first, but the way it was positioned was all wrong. When he passed by, one of its arms raised as if it was trying to flag him down. Terrified, the driver slowed just enough to get a clear look. He pressed the gas and did not look back once. Skinwalker. A man was driving to his remote village in Moab, Utah, on the night of March 3, 2021, when his headlights lit up something on the rocky hillside that made him slow down immediately. Perched on the slope was a pale, hairless creature standing on 4 unnaturally long, thin limbs. At first, it was just standing there, but when he moved closer, the creature lunged toward the car and exposed its teeth, as if warning him not to come any closer. Its body did not match any known animal, so he became convinced that it might be a skinwalker. The driver was so terrified that he reversed the car and took a longer route to reach his village. Dark figure. A family was driving back home on Highway 17 just past Santa Cruz, California. On the 22nd of October, 2021, it was midnight, and the road was completely deserted when the headlights caught something standing dead in the middle of the lane. A dark figure. Only the upper half of its body was there, a dark torso and head, standing motionless. Out of fear, the driver swerved but kept going. When they looked back, the figure was gone. The road behind them was empty and dark, as if the figure was not even there. All the way home, they could not shake the feeling that it might be a ghost. Tunnel ambush. On the 14th of August, 2017, a man was driving through an underpass on his way home in Memphis, Tennessee, when the car ahead of him suddenly stopped in the middle of the tunnel. Before he could even process what was happening, 3 men jumped out and started walking toward him. Feeling something off, he didn't wait to find out what they wanted. He floored the gas and drove straight through, forcing them to scatter. Later, he showed the dashcam footage to highway police, who believed it was a planned carjacking. Ghost truck. A man was driving peacefully along a quiet stretch of Interstate 90 in Springfield, Illinois, on the night of the 3rd of June, 2022, when his dashcam suddenly glitched. The footage shook, blurred, and without warning, a massive white semi-truck filled the entire windshield. The road had been empty a split second before. He had no time to brake, and the truck moved on ahead as if his mind was playing tricks on him. Now, the truck was ahead of his truck with its red taillights slowly disappearing into the dark. Alienoid. Late one night on the 7th of March, a group of bikers was riding back home through a quiet road in Nagpur, Maharashtra. One of them had his phone mounted and recording. The road was empty. Then they spotted a peculiar figure. I was walking barefoot on the road. The figure was pale gray, impossibly thin, with a bald, rounded head and limbs that looked too long for its body. When the clip went online, viewers identified the figure as an alien. But how the alien appeared here is still a question because no official news ever came out about aliens in this area. Running figure. This white van had been in front of him for about a mile on Old Cutler Road in Palmetto Bay, Florida, on the 29th of July, when it suddenly hit the brakes and stopped in the middle of the road. Before the driver could even react, the side door swung open and a figure jumped out, sprinting straight toward his car. At first, he threw his car into reverse, then moved forward, tires scraping the asphalt, and didn't stop. He called 911. Police searched the area but found the van empty, parked, and the man sprinting was gone. Chased by an unknown. On the 22nd of July, 2017, a man was driving alone late at night in Salem, Oregon, when his dashcam captured something emerging from the darkness. It was a pale figure wearing a light-colored hoodie. At first, the figure raised one hand and waved at him. Frightened, the driver slammed the car into reverse, but the figure began walking toward him. He took a completely different route home and never used that road after dark again. Later, when he shared the clip with one of his friends, a police officer, his friend identified the figure as part of a gang that abducted strangers for money. Smoky Spectre. A man was driving home alone on an empty interstate outside Amarillo, Texas, when something appeared in the darkness far ahead. A white, blurry shape was hovering above the asphalt. It had no clear outline, no solid edges, just a glowing smear of white against the pitch-black road, like something between smoke and light. He kept driving toward it, assuming it would resolve into something normal. It never did. As he got closer, it simply faded without a trace. He posted the dashcam clip online, and the viewers identified it as a ghostly presence on the road. Soul returned. On the 16th of March, 2023, a taxi driver was stuck in evening traffic in San Antonio, Texas, completely alone in his car. His dashcam was a dual-lens model, with one lens facing the road and the other pointed at the back seat. Everything was normal until he glanced at the small screen mounted on his windshield and froze. The interior camera was showing an old woman sitting in the back seat, but when he turned around, the seat was empty. After watching the figure twice, he became sure that this was the soul of his grandmother, who passed away a month ago, who came to pay him a final visit. Starving figure. On the 7th of March, 2024, a woman was driving through the streets of Chandni Chowk, Delhi, when her dashcam picked up something that made his stomach drop. A dark figure was hunched over on the side of the road, bent so low its face was almost touching the ground, completely still, as if it were feeding on something. Its body was black, its shape vaguely human, but the way it was folded over was wrong in a way that was hard to explain. He slowed down as she passed it, too unsettled to stop, and drove the rest of the way home without looking back. Write in the comments below if you have any idea what it was. Vanishing car. On the 16th of April, 2023, a man was driving alone on Clinton Road in West Milford, Passaic County, New Jersey, surrounded by dense forest on both sides. His dashcam picked up something strange ahead. A blurry car appeared on the road out of nowhere. No headlights, no plates, just a faint, shapeless outline moving slowly in front of him. He watched it drift toward the right side of the road and just roll straight into the tree line, as the forest swallowed it whole. He could not understand what his dashcam actually picked, and he shared the footage on Instagram, but the viewers brushed it off as an edited video. Road ambush. Late one night on the 4th of August, a man was driving alone on a remote highway outside Cairns, Australia, when his dashcam picked up something deeply unsettling ahead. A large tree had been dragged across the road, completely blocking the way. As he slowed down, several figures emerged from the darkness on both sides. They were dressed in dark clothes, some carrying long sticks, and they spread across the road in a line, moving toward the car with purpose. The driver instantly understood what was happening and floored the accelerator, swerving past them before they could close in. What would you do in this situation? Mysterious hitchhiker. Just a week ago, a man was driving late at night on a highway outside Kyiv, Ukraine, when his dashcam caught something that scared him. A female figure was sitting in the middle of the lane, dressed in dark clothing, as his headlights swept over her. The figure waved her hand toward the driver, as if asking for a lift, and he was about to stop. But then the co-driver told him not to. He had heard too many stories about people using this trick to make drivers pull over and rob them. He kept his foot on the gas and drove straight past her. Snow trail horror.
I don't know what he's marking at. I think he's seen something back here.
A man living near Anchorage, Alaska, had been hearing strange noises outside his house for several nights. One night, he had had enough. so he grabbed his snowmobile and headed out into the dark with his dog to check the tree line around his property. His camera was rolling as he tore through the snow. Then, on the right side of the trail, his headlights caught something that stopped him cold. A tall, thin figure was standing still among the tree stumps. It had no visible features, just a long, pale body standing upright in the dark. He gunned the engine and raced away without looking back.
Holy crap!
Monstrous figures. Before you think the next clip is a bit different from what we have shown so far, I must say these are bizarre clips, and in this channel, Weird or Wild, we are aiming to bring you not only the best content, but also authentic information. So keep watching to find out more. A man was driving through a long stretch of road surrounded by thick bushes in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, on the night of February the 8th, 2020, when his headlights picked up two massive dark shapes blocking the path ahead. Their silhouettes were enormous, tall, hunched, with long bony legs and strange humped backs that looked like nothing he had seen on a road before. For a moment, he genuinely thought he had stumbled onto something monstrous. The figures crept closer and turned out to be camels, calmly wandering the road at midnight as they owned it. Forest Watcher.
Around this corner, I think.
A man was driving through the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington on the 3rd of October for solo camping. The road was narrow, nothing but tall trees on both sides. Then the headlights swept across something between the trunks that left him shocked. A massive dark figure stood upright in the tree line. It was easily 7 feet, covered head to toe in dark fur, shoulders broad enough to fill the gap between two trees. It was just standing there and watching. Out of fear, he drove away fast, thinking the creature might be a Bigfoot.
Oh, look, right there. Stop.
Open discussion. A man was driving on the night of July the 11th, 2023, heading down an empty stretch of highway outside Visalia, California, when something appeared on the right side of the road that stopped his breath. A pale, smoky white figure was moving along the shoulder, and the strange part was that only two long, thin legs were visible, stepping slowly through the dark. There was no upper body, no head, nothing above the waist, just legs drifting across the lane as they belonged to something made of fog. Viewers online had one answer: a Fresno nightcrawler, the legged ghost said to roam the roads of central California. Leshy encounter. A man had set up his trail camera deep in the Ouachita National Forest in Arkansas to capture the moment of wild animals. When he reviewed the footage the next morning, he was left shocked. Standing between the trees was a tall, pale humanoid creature with a gaunt, skeletal body, long, dangling arms that nearly reached the ground, and glowing white eyes piercing through the darkness. It looked as if it were made of tree roots. Slavic folklore describes the Leshy as a supernatural forest guardian that takes human form to confuse and lure trespassers deeper into the woods, never letting them find their way back out. Palasic. A man was walking through the forests of Sumatra, Indonesia, late at night when he suddenly came face to face with something floating in the air right in front of him. It had a terrifying face, wild, messy hair, and glowing eyes that stared at him without blinking. He froze in fear. His friend, who was standing a short distance away, quickly started filming. The creature stayed completely still, silently staring at him. When the footage was shown to local elders, they identified it as a palasic, a supernatural floating head from Sumatran folklore that is said to roam forests at night. Wendigo.
Oh God, it's right there.
A solo camper was gathering firewood in Hiawatha National Forest in Michigan when he heard heavy footsteps and turned on his camera. What stepped into the light made him back away slowly. The creature was towering and skeletal, with ash-gray skin stretched over its bones, long clawed limbs, and massive antlers rising from its skull. It moved with an unnatural, jerky motion and exposed its jaw filled with sharp teeth. It was a Wendigo, a cannibalistic forest demon from North American folklore. Slender Man. A man was driving past the outskirts of Chequamegon-Nicolet National Forest in Wisconsin when he spotted something standing motionless between the birch trees. The figure was impossibly tall and thin, with a body that looked twisted and stretched, as if made entirely of tangled roots. It had no visible face, just a pale, featureless form with a round head. Out of curiosity, he shared the clip on Instagram, and one of the viewers suggested it was Slender Man. Cemetery stalker. A man was visiting St. Louis Cemetery in New Orleans, Louisiana, visiting his late mother's grave, when something caught his eye near a bare tree between the graves. A dark figure with long black hair was standing beside it. He quickly turned his camera toward it, but the moment he did, it slipped behind the tree trunk. Curious and uneasy, he slowly walked toward it, camera still rolling. When he reached the tree, nothing was there. No footprints, no movement, no sign that anything had been there at all. In Louisiana, folklore, such figures near graveyards are believed to be shadow spirits feeding on grief. White Lady. A hunter had set up a motion sensor camera in Ocala National Forest in Florida, hoping to track deer movement through the night. When he checked the footage the next morning, he was scared because standing between two trees was a glowing white figure, tall and slender, with long dark hair falling over its face. Locals who saw the clip immediately called it the White Lady, a spirit from American woodland folklore said to appear before those who are about to face tragedy. Fleshgate. A nature explorer was wandering through the dense woods of Uwharrie National Forest in North Carolina when he heard what sounded like a child crying deep in the darkness. He followed the sound, his torch and camera both running, and what he encountered left him shocked. Crouched near a tree was a pale, hunched creature, tearing into something on the ground. The moment it sensed him, it dropped its prey and charged at him. The man tried to run but could not. When authorities recovered his camera 3 days later and reviewed the footage, they identified the creature as a fleshgate, a predatory cryptid known for mimicking human sounds to lure victims deeper into the forest. Horrifying forest creature. A man had pulled over on a quiet road beside Chattahoochee National Forest in Georgia to get some fresh air when he noticed something moving between the trees. He pointed his camera toward it. Suddenly, the creature launched forward, charging at him on all fours at a horrifying speed. Its body was pale and hairless, its limbs long and thin, moving with an unnatural motion that matched no known animal. He dropped everything and jumped back into his car without even looking back. Orangbunian.
Nossa senhora, que bicho feio aquele!
A group of hunters was driving back to their camp through the forests of Pahang, Malaysia, when their headlights lit up something shocking on the road ahead. 3 pale, humanoid figures were crossing on all fours, their bodies hairless and unnervingly human in shape. The creatures glanced toward the headlights, then disappeared into the darkness on both sides of the road. When they asked locals about them, they identified them as Orangbunian, invisible forest beings that occasionally reveal themselves to those who enter their territory after dark.
Vai lá! Vai em cima, viado! Vai em cima! Vai em cima! Vai em cima! Vai em cima!
Woe Strider. A wildlife team was surveying the open plains of Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota when they spotted a tall, dark figure sprinting across the field. What made it stranger was the object it was carrying, a perfect sphere clutched in one hand as it ran upright like a human. They filmed it and shared the footage on Instagram, where one viewer identified it as a Woe Strider, a cryptid from American frontier folklore described as a long-limbed, dark figure that roams open plains carrying mysterious objects believed to be used in dark rituals. Egg thief.
Se está moviendo solo, graba despacito.
A farmer living near Ouachita National Forest in Arkansas had been losing eggs from his barn every morning. One day, he caught the culprit red-handed. The footage showed a small, greenish creature with disheveled dark hair, a wrinkled face, and sharp, cunning eyes, standing at his table and holding eggs in its small hands. At first, it dropped the eggs, then picked more and ran out of the door. He shared the clip on Instagram, claiming it was a goblin, but viewers immediately brushed it off as a hoax.
Ya nos vio, ya se dio cuenta del video.
Vejuge. A woman was deep in the forests of Olympic National Park in Washington, documenting rare plant species, when she spotted something that made her forget everything she came for. Standing among the trees was a lean, gray-bodied creature with large branching antlers rising from its head, staring directly at her with hollow dark eyes. She hid behind a tree trunk, heart-pounding. In Athabascan folklore, the Wechuge is a possessed forest being that wears the form of animals to disguise itself before abducting those who wander alone.
Oh God.
La Mona Bruja. On the 27th of March, 2008, a man was walking through the woods near Kisatchie National Forest in Louisiana late at night when his flashlight caught something that made him freeze. Pressed against a large tree trunk stood a dark, slender creature, upright on two legs, its body completely black, blending into the darkness. It had thin limbs and stood motionless, watching him. He quickly recorded it and ran. Later, when he searched online, he found it matched descriptions of La Mona Bruja, a dark, shape-shifting entity from Latin American folklore said to lurk on trees, waiting for lone travelers at night. Forest cryptid. A hunter was walking through Bankhead National Forest in Alabama late at night when his flashlight caught a pale face peering at him from between two tree trunks, and he was left shocked. The creature had a bald, ghostly white head, deep sunken red eyes, and a wide, teeth-bearing grin that stretched unnaturally across its face. It stayed motionless and kept its eyes fixed on him. Terrified, he ran away from this sight. When he shared the clip online, viewers brushed it off as a hoax. Little Stalker. A man was filming his wife as they explored the woods near their home in Clermont, Georgia, when he noticed something mysterious in the background. A tiny creature, no taller than a toddler, wearing what appeared to be a red shirt, was moving silently through the bushes behind her. Later that evening, he spotted the same creature inside his house, grabbing his gaming remote off the table. The moment it noticed him watching, it bolted out the door and disappeared into the fields. In today's era of AI, it is hard to say whether this was real or an elaborate hoax. So, what do you think? La Llorona. While driving along the Shawnee National Forest in Illinois, a man noticed a strange figure perched at the top of a tall tree. He pulled over and started recording. The creature was standing motionless at first, then began slowly shifting its position. It had a dark, humanoid shape. After a few moments, it vanished. When he shared the footage online, viewers identified it as La Llorona, a vengeful witch from Latin American legend known for watching and wailing for lost souls. Forest Swinger. A group of friends was searching for their missing livestock in Sajangar Wildlife Sanctuary in Rajasthan, India, when they heard a faint creaking sound coming from deep within the trees. When they pointed their flashlight toward it, they saw a pale, hunched figure swaying back and forth on a rope swing. Its long limbs were dangling beneath it. The creature slowly turned its head toward them, and they ran for their lives. In Indian folklore, such entities are known as churails, restless spirits that lure people into forests and never let them return. Kuntilanak. A man was walking through the bamboo forests of Kalimantan, Indonesia, when he noticed a pale figure standing motionless between the thick stalks. He zoomed in, and what he saw made his heart pound. A woman in a red dress was standing motionless, her face blackened, with long dark hair hanging over her shoulders and sharp, claw-like fingers. He sent the footage to a local elder who recognized it instantly. The darkened face, red dress, and black hair are the three signs every Indonesian child is warned about. It was a kuntilanak, and the elder told him to never return to that forest again. Frightening forest figure. A hunter had not expected his trail camera to capture something like this. The footage showed a tall figure dressed in a long white cloak, moving slowly in the darkness. Its arms were raised, and its body swayed in a rhythmic motion, as if dancing to a sound no human ear could hear. When the footage was shared online, paranormal researchers pointed to the Rougarou, a shape-shifting entity from Cajun folklore, believed to perform rituals deep in Louisiana forests at night. Pontianak. A man was riding his bike home late at night along a quiet road in Johor, Malaysia, when he noticed something that made him slam his brakes. Perched on a tree branch beside the road was a figure in white, with its dark face looking down. He started recording with his hands shaking. When he showed the footage to his neighbors the next morning, they recognized it as Pontianak, a female spirit. Face in the bark. One Sunday night, a group of friends was traveling through the back roads of Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky when their tire blew out and they pulled over. As they stepped, the headlight made something visible and left them shocked. Pressed into the bark of a large tree was a dark, female face with hollow eyes, defined cheekbones and lips. They posted the footage online, claiming it was a witch trapped inside the tree, but viewers dismissed it as pareidolia. Forest watcher. A group of campers was sitting around a bonfire in Angelina National Forest in Texas when one of them noticed a dark figure standing between the trees, just beyond the reach of the firelight. It was watching them. One of the men grabbed a stick and moved toward it, waving it forward. The creature stumbled back and disappeared into the darkness. Nobody slept that night. Whatever it was, it had been standing there long enough to study them carefully, as if the bonfire was the only thing stopping it from lunging forward. Mysterious wood creature. 3 years ago, a group of campers was sitting around a bonfire in Angelina National Forest in Texas when one of them noticed a dark figure peeking at them from behind a tree. One of the men grabbed a stick and moved toward it, waving it forward. The creature stumbled back and disappeared into the darkness. Nobody slept that night, thinking it might be a monster standing there long enough to study them carefully, as if the bonfire was the only thing stopping it from lunging forward. Mysterious creature. A man living near the edge of Ouachita National Forest in Arkansas stepped out for a late-night walk when he noticed two glowing eyes moving high up in the trees. He stopped and waited. After a few moments, something dropped silently to the ground and crouched in the tall grass, its eyes still glowing, fixed directly on him. As he raised his camera, the thermal footage revealed a body covered in thick black hair, hunched and moving strangely. Sensing trouble, he ran straight home, thinking it might be a monster. Rakshasa. A honey hunter was moving through the dense forests of Bastar, Chhattisgarh, India, collecting wild honey from the trees when something made him stop. Perched between the branches was a dark creature covered in thick black fur with tiny horns on its head. Its eyes were glowing a deep, burning red. When he showed the video to the village elders, they identified it as a Rakshasa, a flesh-eating demon from Hindu mythology. Rake sighting. A hunter had set up a trail camera in Talladega National Forest in Alabama to track deer movement, but deer never appeared. Instead, from behind a thick tree trunk, a pale, bald creature slowly emerged, its unnaturally long neck craning toward the camera lens. It held its gaze for a brief moment, then suddenly dropped low to the ground and vanished. He shared this clip with one of his friends, who was a cryptid researcher, who reviewed the footage and identified it immediately as Rake. Tall humanoid creature. A group of friends was heading home after spending the day in Cibola National Forest in New Mexico when they spotted something moving toward them from the darkness. A pale, tall humanoid figure was sprinting toward their car at an unnatural speed. Spooked, the driver floored the accelerator and raced down the road without looking back. When they reviewed the footage later, they were convinced it was a skinwalker, a shape-shifting entity from Navajo folklore. Lizard Man.
You think that was a coyote? What do you think that was? What was it? Do you see it where?
A couple was exploring Sumter National Forest in South Carolina at night when they heard a loud cracking sound in the woods and stopped dead. Something was moving behind the bushes. As they raised their camera, a terrifying creature stepped into view, walking upright on two legs in a distinctly human gait. Its head was reptilian with a hard lizard-like face, a thick, rigid ridge running down its back, and a powerful tail dragging behind it. They ran without hesitation. Later, the viewers online identified it as a lizardman.
Holy...
Forest giant figure. A man was walking through Pisgah National Forest in North Carolina late at night when he flashed his torchlight toward the trees. What the light revealed made him run, because crouching behind the branches was a massive, bald figure with a broad, hunched body. Its glowing eyes caught the light and stared at him. It was enormous, far too large to be any person. He shared the video on Instagram, claiming that it was a giant, but viewers identified it as a hoax. A ghoul. Two friends were exploring the rainforests of West Java, Indonesia, on November 13th, when they encountered a dark creature covered in thick black fur coming toward them. Its face was terrifying, and its long, sharp nails were clearly visible as it charged toward them. They scrambled up the nearest trees to escape, but when they looked down, the creature was standing upright in the thick bushes below, waiting patiently. In Javanese folklore, forest demons called a ghoul are known to stalk intruders and wait for them to come back down. Forest witch. A tourist woman had lost her way in Tongass National Forest in Alaska late at night when she spotted a glowing figure moving ahead near a narrow bridge. Desperate to find her way out, she followed it. The creature led her deep into the middle of the forest before suddenly stopping, as if delivering a warning to turn back immediately. Terrified, she ran without looking back and later told rangers what she saw, and they told her that she was a witch said to haunt and lure strangers at night. Bridge crawler. A man pulled over on a bridge in Shawnee National Forest in Illinois after hearing strange sounds coming from below. He climbed down to investigate, with his camera rolling. What he found beneath the bridge stopped him cold. A pale, hairless humanoid creature was crouching on all fours among the rocks. It looked as if it were fixed on the rocks. The moment he got close enough to see it clearly, it snapped its head toward him. He turned and ran back up for his life. Whether it was a forest monster or something far more sinister, decide it yourself. Goblins. Back in 2003, a wildlife photographer was moving through Apalachicola National Forest in Florida when he stumbled upon something that shocked him. Two small, hunched creatures were locked in a duel. Their bodies were thin and dark, with wrinkled, leathery skin, bony limbs, pointy ears, and oversized heads. Folklore experts who reviewed the footage identified them as goblins, mischievous creatures from European legend known to fight over land and resources.
Parecen duendes.
Bizarre forest creature.
Sir, you okay? Stay with Back up.
After multiple reports of a terrifying creature lurking in Kisatchie National Forest in Louisiana, two officers went in to investigate. As they went deeper, they spotted something strange. Standing among the bushes was a pale, hairless creature with a broad, flat face, black lips, large dark eyes, and a thin body covered in grayish skin. It was crouched low, staring at them as they approached. The moment they got too close, it bolted into the trees at a speed no human or known animal could match, leaving the officers stunned, unable to explain what they had just seen. Dogman. A farmer was grazing his livestock on the open fields near Manistee National Forest in Michigan when he noticed a dark figure moving along the ridge in the distance. He pointed his camera and zoomed in. The creature was walking upright on two powerful legs, its body covered in thick, dark fur with broad shoulders and a canine head sitting on a muscular neck. It moved as if it owned the land. After watching this creature, he remembered Dogman, a legendary creature deeply rooted in Michigan folklore. Creature chasing deer. A hiker was trekking through Hoosier National Forest in Indiana when he noticed a large flock of deer sprinting across the open field below in a blind panic, as if something was chasing them. He pointed his camera toward them and zoomed in. Behind the fleeing deer, a tall, dark creature was running on all fours at an incredible speed. Its limbs were long and unlike any predator he had ever seen in these woods. If you have any idea what this creature could be, write it down in the comments section. Dark forest beings. Late one night, a man was waiting quietly for deer near Sam Houston National Forest in Texas when two glowing red eyes appeared in the darkness ahead. Terrified, he climbed on the tree stand. Then, even more strangely, two dark figures emerged from the tree line and began hurling objects at him as if trying to bring him down. In Choctaw folklore, these creatures are known as Nalusa Falea, dark forest beings that stalk night hunters, throwing objects to scare their prey before hunting them down. Bigfoot sighting. A man was searching for his lost dog through the dense woods of Gifford-Pinchot National Forest in Washington when loud, heavy footsteps suddenly shook the ground around him. He spun around and turned his camera on. Between the trees, a massive dark creature was moving fast on two legs, its broad body covered in thick black fur, crashing through the undergrowth with each stride. He stood frozen until it disappeared into the trees. He never found his dog, and he left the forest convinced he had just seen a real Bigfoot. Kappa. A strange video was recently shared on Instagram, showing a bizarre creature crouched on a log jutting out over a murky river. Its body was lean and greenish, with slick skin that looked like a turtle's, long fingers gripping the log, and a hunched posture that looked strange. The moment it sensed the camera, it slipped into the water and never resurfaced. Viewers online identified it as Kappa, a water creature from Japanese folklore known to lurk beneath river surfaces, pulling down anyone who gets too close. Forest Guardian. A man was hiking through the Boundary Waters Forest in Minnesota when something made him stop cold. Wrapped around the base of a large tree was a creature that seemed to grow directly out of it. Its body was made of twisted tree roots and rough bark, but what truly disturbed him was the long, flowing hair cascading down from its head, unmistakably feminine. It looked as if a woman had slowly merged into the tree itself. In Slavic folklore, this is known as a lesovika, the female forest spirit believed to be born from the roots of ancient trees. Bizarre tree figure. A photographer was walking through Congaree National Park in South Carolina, taking close-up pictures of very old trees for his nature blog. While zooming in on the bark of one huge tree, he noticed something shocking on his camera screen. It looked like a human face, with clear eyes, a nose, and a jaw, shaped naturally in the bark. Curious, he spent days researching it and found a similar idea in Celtic folklore. There, forest spirits called green men are said to live in ancient trees and warn people not to disturb the forest. Forest crawler. A man and his wife were driving to their farmhouse near the Ozark National Forest in Arkansas when their headlights caught something crossing the road ahead. A pale, bare, and bald creature was moving on all fours, its body low to the ground, crawling with a slow and deliberate motion that looked nothing like any animal they had ever seen. The man reversed the car immediately and took a longer route, convinced it was a forest crawler. Crop goblin. Just a year ago, a farmer in Hocking Hills, Ohio, had grown tired of finding his cornfield destroyed every morning. One night, he hid at the edge of the field and waited. After waiting for hours, something crept out from between the stalks. It was small and hunched, with enormous pointy ears, a wrinkled gray face, sunken eyes, and bony fingers digging into the soil. The farmer filmed it with his hands shaking. When he showed it to his grandfather, he called it a goblin. But what do you think it really was? Open discussion. On the 7th of April, 2003, a man was heading home through the forests of Wayanad, Kerala, India, after collecting medicinal herbs when something made him stop cold. Standing between the trees was a figure that appeared to be made of twisted roots and pale wood, with long branch-like arms stretching outward and a face formed from the bark itself, hauntingly feminine in shape. As he raised his camera with trembling hands, the figure slowly shifted and merged back into the tree trunk, as if it had never been there. He searched around the tree, but found nothing. He believed that it was Yakshi, a powerful female tree spirit that dwells within ancient forest trees, revealing her form only at night to those who walk alone.
Fairest of them all. Someone had already caught this Snow White statue moving once before, and when word got around, another person went back with a camera to see if it would happen again. They pointed the lens directly at the face and waited, and then the statue blinked right into the camera. The detail on the face was lifelike enough that the blink looked genuinely unsettling up close. I wasn't able to find the first video, but this person managed to put the rumors to rest. A live mannequin. This CCTV footage from inside a closed clothing shop captured something that the owner was not expecting to see. In the back storage area of the shop, one of the headless mannequins started moving at around 3 in the morning. It didn't wobble or tip over. It actually walked forward from its spot, the dress it was wearing trailing behind it as it moved through the narrow aisle. The other mannequin beside it stayed completely still. The shop was locked, the lights were off, and nobody was inside. Since it was recently uploaded and no other information, this seems likely to be AI. Jesus blinks at you. On December 12th, 11 years ago, a group of tourists were inside a church in Morelia, Michoacan, Mexico, when one of them kept recording for good reason. The statue blinked. A slow, deliberate blink, crown of thorns and all, caught clean on camera in the middle of a quiet church. The face was detailed and lifelike enough that the movement looked disturbingly natural. Locals had already been talking about something strange happening with this Jesus statue, so that's why the cameraman kept filming in hopes of catching this shocking sight. Once you're done liking this video and subscribing, let me remind you what you're about to watch is going to be bizarre, and we seriously need to talk about them. Moving statue.
Que viva Cristo sacerdote.
During a recorded church service in the Philippines, a decorative statue of Jesus positioned behind the priest caught people's attention for all the strange reasons. While the sermon was going on, the statue's arm visibly shifted, dropping from a fully raised position down toward the middle in one slow, deliberate movement. The priest kept talking, completely unaware. The clip circulated fast, and the reactions were split right down the middle between people calling it a miracle and people calling it something else entirely. The most grounded explanation was that the statue was animatronic, built with a mechanical system inside that triggered the movement. In 2019, a church in Fiji became the center of something that drew crowds from across the island. A statue of the Virgin Mary, decorated with a crown and rosary beads and positioned inside the church, was filmed with what appeared to be tears streaming down its face. The liquid was visible, catching the light as it ran down the cheeks of the painted porcelain face. For a deeply religious island nation, the reaction was immediate and emotional. Scientists pointed toward condensation or porous materials absorbing moisture, but the people who stood in front of that statue were not particularly interested in that explanation. Jesus submits. This one was filmed outside in front of a live crowd, which made it much harder to explain away. A crucifixion statue mounted outdoors with people gathered all around it was being filmed on TikTok by user Catgaholic when the statue's head moved. People in the front rows shifted and pointed, and the energy in the clip changed immediately. There were no controlled conditions, no dim church lighting, and no way to blame a camera angle. Drop what you think happened in the comments, because people are still arguing about this one. Real miracle caught. During an outdoor religious procession in Spain, a 300-year-old statue of Jesus was being carried through the streets on a platform by a group of bearers. As they lifted it, the statue raised its head, like it was lifting its own gaze toward the sky. The crowd watching from the street fell quiet almost instantly, and the person filming kept the camera locked on it the whole time. Mary opens eyes. Antenna Sicilia, a local Italian news channel, captured something on camera that their own viewers could not stop replaying. A statue of the Virgin Mary, filmed in Sicily, slowly opened her eyes on camera and then closed them again. Not a flicker or a trick of light, but a full, deliberate open and close. The broadcast aired it without much commentary, almost like the crew themselves didn't know what to say. Sicily already had a deep religious culture surrounding Marian statues, which made the footage be that much more miraculous with locals. Hand from heaven. Residents in Antioch, California looked up one day and stopped completely in their tracks. Emerging from the gray cloud cover above the city was a giant hand, fully formed with 5 distinct fingers spread open, hovering in the sky in a way that looked nothing like any natural cloud formation. It was too defined, too symmetrical, and too recognizable to dismiss as fog or vapor, taking an odd shape by chance. Meteorologists did say it could be a weird cloud formation, but looking at this footage, this one was clearly different. Lady in Gray. The security camera inside a museum housing old church artifacts was rolling long after closing time when a tall, translucent humanoid figure moved through the hall. She passed through the room slowly and deliberately, the way someone familiar with the space would walk, not lost or wandering, but moving like she knew exactly where she was going. What made this one particularly striking was the outline of her clothing, the shape of a long skirt visible in the translucent form, suggesting she belonged to a completely different era. People who studied the footage started calling her the Gray Lady. She had probably loved that museum in her lifetime, visited it regularly, and even after she was gone, she just kept coming back. Before you think the next clip is a bit different from what we have shown so far, I must say these are bizarre clips, and in this channel, Weird or Wild, we are aiming to bring you not only the best content, but also authentic information. So keep watching to find out more. Unbelievable capture. During a Holy Week celebration in the Philippines, a young woman in the crowd pulled out her phone and caught something that stopped people mid-prayer. The crucifixion statue, which had been positioned with its head dropped forward in the classic downward pose, slowly raised its head and looked out toward the crowd. The other statues around it stayed completely still. Whatever explanation people tried to attach to it, the footage itself was hard to argue with. Bizarre sky clip. Residents of Tulsa, Oklahoma, captured this strange, dark, rectangular block in the sky just a few days ago. But then, something even more shocking happened. The shape of a door emerged, perfectly framed in bright golden light against the gray sky. It burned with intensity for just a few seconds before vanishing. Neighbors were already outside with phones pointed up, which meant enough people saw it happen in real time to rule out a camera trick. Weather officials released no statement.
It's humming. Oh, it just closed.
Jesus comes to life. Right in the middle of a live sermon at a church in Florence, Italy, the congregation got something nobody was prepared for. The large statue of Jesus standing behind the altar, holding the cross in full robes and crown of thorns, suddenly started moving. It stepped down from its pedestal, ran across the altar, and headed straight out of the church while the priest was still mid-sentence. Now, two explanations kept coming up. Either this was AI-generated footage, or someone in a very convincing costume pulled off one of the most committed pranks ever recorded. The first one honestly feels more likely when you watch it closely, but we want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments right now. Now let us move on to our open discussion of the day. A Brazilian man by the name Diego was inside Igreja Santa Rita in a small town in the interior of Maranhão, Brazil, when he pointed his camera at a statue of a nun holding a cross. What happened next terrified him. See if you can spot it yourself. Look closely at her eyes. She literally blinks at the statue in front of her. Translating the inscription at the base reads as, "How thirsty I am, thirsting to quench yours," which in the context of what Diego had just filmed, made the whole thing feel even more eerie. He stopped recording and immediately ran straight out of that church without looking back. Unnatural phenomenon. This was captured almost 2 months ago, when dozens of tourists at the ancient pyramid at Chichen Itza in Mexico caught a spinning column of dust. It rose tall and fast against the clear blue sky, swirling with reddish dust, right at the base of one of the most historically loaded sites on Earth. It held its shape for longer than a random dust devil normally would. Scientists would call it a natural vortex caused by heat and surface conditions, and in an open field, that explanation technically works. But the Mayans who built that pyramid were deeply connected to the sky, to cycles, and to forces they believed moved through specific places. This is what the comments had to say. Malibu experiments. Surfer and content creator Surfing with Ben was out at Zuma Beach in Malibu, California, when two intense green laser beams started firing into the sky from different points along the beach. The beams were bright, precise, and powerful, shooting straight up and at angles into the cloud cover above the coastline with the Santa Monica Mountains. 2 separate origin points, 2 separate beams, both the same vivid green laser technology. The footage circulated fast, and the theories ranged from military atmospheric testing to something communicating upward from the shoreline. Nobody came forward to claim responsibility for this. Wrath or warning. In Israel, during a period when nothing felt normal, someone filmed hundreds of crows gathering in the sky directly above a street lined with Israeli flags. The birds formed a dense, swirling mass that stretched from rooftop to rooftop, blocking out the light above the road below in a way that felt deeply uncomfortable to watch. Some people immediately called it the wrath of God, a sign tied to everything happening in the region. Others said it had the texture and movement of an AI-generated clip, too perfectly ominous to be real. Which side do you agree with? Let me know in the comments below.
If this blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe to WOW for your weekly dose of weird and wild. Thank you so much for watching.